Baby Boomer fans, we are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River, make sure you are wide awake, and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us today. It is tremendous to have you in our viewing audience. And Jackie, we have another, I say this every time, but this is the truth. We have another great guest today, and I think you will really appreciate her story.
Okay, welcome everyone. I always like to draw your attention down to the bottom of the screen where you see our website going across the bottom. It's called www.whilethewindmillwatch.com. And here you will go, when you go there, you'll find all sorts of information about the authors, about where we might be signing books, about where we might be talking about our book at an event, when we might be Zooming. And we also will talk, it talks about the vendors where you can purchase this wonderful book. And speaking of the book, look in the upper corner of my screen, you'll see that book called While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s. Notice the windmill and the silhouette of the two little girls on the front. And then there's a little white icon below that indicates a special award that the book received in 2022. So check that out. So we're going to begin now. Today we're going to meet a lady who told me this. I grew up in a barn, but whose passion for baking took her to national level heights. So born in 1948 in Southwest Iowa, Dianna Sheehy was raised on a farm with two sisters, one 6 years younger and one 16 years older. The farm, located near Audubon, Iowa, raised mostly dairy, but also hogs, chickens, corn, beans, and hay, and probably a few other things too. After having 4 children, Dianna and her husband parted ways for a few years later, and then Dianna and Leo were married. Dianna's education was received at the School of Hard Knocks. Her resume includes a stay-at-home mom, a tractor driver, backhoe operator, dairy woman, mother, grandmother, and even a great-grandmother. She just doesn't look that old, does she? She has 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl, and they've given her 11 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren so far. She's still counting that one.
Okay,
there we are.
Let's show you that family picture. Oh my word, Dianna. That's tremendous that you could get them all together at the same time.
Right.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Christmas
So
time.
Leo passed away in 2018 after 32 years of being together. A great-grandson is named after Leo. Little Leo is the family's miracle baby because he was born 8 weeks early. He will be celebrating his 2nd birthday on August 2nd. Dianna has been involved with farming her entire life, and she continues to live on her family farm near Audubon. What about the national heights I mentioned in the opening line? Well, the answer will be revealed in our chat. Dianna, welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
And I have to say, you two gals are just amazing.
Well, thank you. Right now, we're going to be hearing about how you are an amazing individual.
Yes.
So even though you were born in 1958, you still were affected by World War II. So please tell us about that.
Well, I wished it would have been 1958, but it was 1948.
I'm sorry, 48. I said it wrong.
Well, well, World War II, my dad, Harvey Olmquist, fought in the Philippines. He was wounded more than once, Purple Heart, got back after the war, married my mother, Elizabeth Elmquist, and they started farming with my grandfather, Ben Dice, who prior to that had a threshing machine. Wow. So the threshing circle, that would go way back to the late 1800s, early 1900s. Well, he still had it, and he had a crew. And so there was a lot of hard work way back then. Of course, I do not remember that, but the only thing I do remember about that was that all the women would take massive amounts of food for dinner out to the field and wherever they were threshing, and homemade bread, the usual, and pie. Well, the pie, I thought, was the only dessert that ever existed in the world. I did come to find out there was more things for dessert than pie. But
and you have grown with that idea that perhaps pie might be the only dessert that existed.
yes, I kind of did for a long time.
Yeah.
But
so how did his being in the war affect you personally?
Well, when I was very young, I would hear my father having nightmares and yelling and out in regard to those. And then when I was probably in about 5th, 6th grade, we just lived a couple of miles north of where I live now on my grandfather's farm. And I finally got up enough nerve one night to go out to the kitchen where he went to sit, and he would smoke one cigarette after another, which he started in the war. Mm-hmm. And I had never heard anything about the war before. And so I proceeded to ask him cautiously questions, and he did open up and tell me a lot about the war, which was disastrous, of course, but he made it through. And in those days, I don't know as if there was any PTSD counseling. I kind of doubt it. Don't know for sure. There is now, but back in those days, I think that generation and before just powered through it on their own somehow. And he didn't speak of it other than when I would go and ask him questions and talk about it to me, which I was grateful for. So I did learn a lot through him.
Did when you were talking with him, Dianna, did he ever tear up? Did he ever cry at all?
His eyes would get glassy, but wouldn't let the tears come, I guess. And so,
sure. Yes, that was quite a generation of warriors, whether they be fighting in the artillery or whatever service they provided, both men and women.
He was one tough man to get through everything. And his mother, my grandmother, Tilda Elmquist, always said, if he comes back alive from the war, I know he'll live to be an old man. But that didn't happen. He was killed in a tractor accident when he was 46 years old in 1972.
Oh, that's
well. From the war, from the 40s, let's go on to the 50s. There were many advances in science during the 1950s.
Yes.
Can you tell us one or several that affected you?
Well, I remember when we got our first TV. Mm-hmm. Reception was not good. They had something called a rotor, which don't know for sure what it did, whether it did something with the antenna, but and only a couple of channels. And I was the remote control.
Yes. Yeah. You were, I don't think you were alone in that, in a family. Jackie and I knew about that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing I remember about the 50s was the 1958 flood, which was major. And maybe Janine, I don't know if you remembered that or not.
No, I wasn't living in Iowa then, okay. but I know I've heard bits and pieces of it.
Well, my dad and grandpa, I would have been 10. My dad and grandpa had to help rescue and also recover. And it was a shocking time. And I remember my uncle Delbert Elmquist, my dad's brother, he was going to go out that evening with his friends, and turned out he couldn't, and it was good that he didn't, because one of his best friends got swept away in the Hamlin area in the flood and was killed. A couple others also.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bad thing to remember of the 50s.
Dianna, do you recall anything about the woman from Exira? And of course, this is south of Audubon. Can you tell us about that story? Who was in the river?
Was that the one that got swept away, and she held on to a log all the way down to, was it Red Oak?
Yes.
I don't remember the name, but she lived, and
Yes.
what a story that would have been.
Mm-hmm.
And Red Oak is how far from Audubon or Exira?
Oh dear. Gee. I don't know. Maybe 40, 50 miles.
Okay.
I don't know.
And interestingly too, I believe it was the Nishnawatna River.
Yes.
Okay. And people at Atlantic, which would have been north, in between Audubon or Exira and Red Oak, they tried to catch her and save her, but she just kind of, she couldn't, so she kept hanging on. And
yes. Yes.
Good for her. And praying all the time, probably.
My sister Kathy just found that Red Oak is 63 miles away.
Oh, golly.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So that was a long, horrible ride.
Oh, yes.
So how did she have? How did the story end?
I really don't even know.
I don't either.
She lived to tell about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Someone or a group or whoever saved her in the Red Oak area.
We need to have somebody, Paul Harvey, the rest of the
Yes.
story.
Yes,
We want to
right.
know that.
That's right.
Okay. Any science related things in the 50s? How about in the kitchen or in the barn? Did you use milkers?
The other thing I was going to mention about the 50s that I remember vividly was my Aunt Verdine Elmquist. Mm-hmm. She was in high school. I was, 6, 7 years younger than her. And I just remember the clothes, the hairdo, the penny loafers with the sock. And she was a fantastic basketball player, and I wanted to be just like her. And so I did wear a lot of the same clothes, and I played basketball. That was what I wanted to do with my life professionally, but that did not work. So
you had penny loafers. Did you have saddle shoes also?
I did.
How about a poodle skirt?
I did.
Oh,
I had the
you were really hip.
The cans.
Yes. Did your mom make it for you?
No. I think the poodle skirt we probably bought. My mom was a good sewer, and so was my grandmother, though. So a good share of my clothes were homemade.
Mm-hmm. Yep, as were ours.
So at age 16, you began another chapter in your life, which is, I believe, a little unusual. Tell us about that.
A little is, to say the least.
Okay.
Yeah, that ended my basketball career as a sophomore, and got married and had 4 kids, which led to the now big picture of 36 in that picture that I showed you.
Wow.
And yes, we had a grade A dairy, had to be home all the time, twice a day, 60 cows, 40 sows ready to farrow, chickens, crop, lots of hay ground to feed the dairy cows. Mm-hmm. So we worked day and night for 20 some years before we parted.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good life. The children all learned to work at a very young age, like how to run the scoop shovel, scooping manure, maybe at about 4 years old.
Yeah.
And they're all hard workers to this day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't refute the fact that working in the barn as little children will not teach you values that you need throughout your life.
Absolutely.
Just yesterday, I read a Harvard review about when children are given chores when they're young, they grow up to be more productive and happier adults. That was a 75-year study.
I agree with it 100%.
Yeah.
I agree. And of course, during the middle 80s and on, then I was a single mother and kept on trying to keep on, had many jobs outside of the house plus the farm, but somehow we all made it.
Yep.
Perseverance is the word there.
There wasn't a lot of choice.
No, but you did it. Yeah, you did it. So let's move on to this National Heights journey that you have that I alluded to.
Yes.
So how did your passion for baking begin? Although you probably told us a little bit about it way back when, during the thrashing times.
Yeah. Well, I had, let's see these three gals?
Yeah.
The bonnets, the aprons. Those three aunts were called the Crottinger sisters, and they were my mother's aunts, so my great aunts. And they lived here on the farm that my husband and I bought, and my sister and brother-in-law live on this farm also, and they live in the house that those three Crottinger sisters lived in, and they did a lot of remodeling there. And so they were huge bakers of anything and everything, homemade bread, pies, of course, and then their sister, my grandmother, at that time my grandfather lived where I live now, and before that they both lived in town. So they were all fantastic bakers, and I was most interested in anything that had yeast in, but also and mainly the pies. They were fantastic pie makers, and when I was just, I don't know, maybe even kindergarten, I would watch them, and I looked at their hands and I thought how old their hands looked, but how those hands would just form this crazy good pie. And now I look at my hands and I'm thinking, I think they look way worse than those hands. And they were, they all lived to be pretty much in their late 80s, but I would watch them, and those hands could just make a pie without even, it was unbelievable. And they would, whatever they had growing on the farm, whether it be an apple tree or raspberry bushes or whatever they had, they would go out, pick it, put it in a pie. And I thought how wonderful that was. And my mom also did bake pies. And so that's where I got started. I would just watch. I wouldn't ask questions. They didn't talk. I just watched. And of course, they didn't really measure. And even when I was young, I would try to figure, I wonder how much that is. Is that a cup or what is it? And so I kind of figured it all out. And then I ended up seeing a couple of recipes of theirs, but mainly the recipes were in their heads. And now recipes are in my head.
Sure. So Dianna, when they each baked a pie, because we, as people, as humans, we all have our individual ways of working with food and with dough. Did you ever notice a difference in how the pie tasted or the quality of the pie among each of those three aunts?
Well, they each had a certain pie that they made, actually. But the crust was always the same. They used lard, because they and we all butchered, and they rendered their own lard, and it was the best lard that I have ever used or tasted. And so the crust was always the same, but each one had a certain pie that they would make.
Okay. Can you tell us, for the benefit of our viewers, what is meant by rendering lard?
Well, they take the tallow, the fat,
Okay.
put it in a big kettle, and they cook or simmer it for hours, and then after that, well, then cracklings form.
Oh.
You probably know better to me how to explain cracklings.
Mhm.
No?
I know what you mean, but it's just like it's the. Let's say that could there have been a slice, a little bit of meat in there, and then that's what is baked.
No, there wouldn't have been meat.
Well, if it had not been sliced off properly, there would have been, because
Well,
then
that could
goes
be
to the
too.
top, and then you take that off. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But then see, then the sediment would kind of sink to the bottom, and then they would strain the lard liquid, I'll call it,
Yeah.
and it was always the most pure white, best smelling. They just knew how to render lard.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Mom would do some of that in our house, and that's what I remember most, is that aroma that stayed in the house for so
Yes.
long.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's nice to say aroma, isn't it? It was.
smell, aroma, same way.
Yeah.
It's something that you remember.
Yes, it was. So I always used lard up until Crisco came around, and but then that's another segment we get into, I guess.
Well, do you want to continue with that? Tell us
Well,
about that.
Well, the first, I was going to say, the first pie that I entered was probably about 1973 at the Iowa State Fair.
Okay.
And this is kind of interesting. A lot of people don't know this, especially the younger ones, but the judging and the food department was under the grandstand. You
Yes.
remember that, Janine?
I do, yes. Uh-huh.
Well, after we got done milking, I took a pie out there, didn't even know where to go, finally figured it out. And there wasn't even hardly any seating under the grandstand. And there was people milling all around looking at other entries of other than food. And the judges were like behind a wall, but there was a glass and you couldn't hear them talk. You could just kind of see them if you were anywhere close. Well, I was clear in the back, couldn't see anything. And I thought, well, I'm going to go home. So I did. Well, then after the fair was over with, I received a white ribbon in the mail, which made me feel real good, because at that time there was only maybe 3 classes of pies.
Okay.
It would be like 2 crust fruit, 1 crust cream, and then I don't know what the other one would have been. So you were actually up against a lot of pies of different kinds.
Sure.
So then after I don't know what year it was, and I actually tried to find out through the Blue Ribbon Foundation, who supports the fair and gets and raises money to keep the fair going. I tried to find out through them, and also a couple other places the other day, when it actually moved from the grandstand into what they used to call the Maytag building. Now it's called the kitchen. Well, the dates they had down weren't correct. And they were trying to find out, but could not before today. And so anyway, the judging took place in the Maytag room, and I was entering there for years and years and years and years. And then I forget what year it was now, but Tone's company, Spice Company in Ankeny, they sponsored a huge cinnamon roll contest. Well, I entered it, and they had 2 divisions. One was caramel rolls and one was cinnamon rolls. And so I entered in both, and they kept eliminating. And then they had some, as they say, celebrities come in for the final judging, which would have been from the Tones Company. And I ended up winning both divisions. They didn't know who or anything until they went to announce it. Well, they had to pick an overall. So my one roll, I think it was might have been the caramel rolls. They took first place, first overall, and the other roll took second overall. Well, when they went to read it, all the Tones people went, Then there was this little powwow for a while. Well, there was no rules that said that couldn't happen. So
Yeah.
first and second overall, and there was, oh my gosh, there was a couple hundred rolls in every category. So
can you tell us? Are you willing to share your secret? Why are your rolls the best? Do you have a special spice in there?
No, it had, of course, be cinnamon because they were sponsoring it. Well, I have changed my recipe through the years, but what works the best is mashed potatoes that I put in the cinnamon rolls. Well, after that caught on because the recipe was printed and then everybody was doing that.
Right.
Everybody. Well, I was asked to judge up at Spencer at the Clay County Fair after I won Iowa State Fair. And their rules were no mashed potatoes could be used in the rolls.
Oh.
I don't know why, but that's something I'll remember. But anyway,
I think we need to really mention too that there is a giant amount of award money from Tones when you won that cinnamon roll contest. That's why there were so many entries in it.
Well, there was, and I did, because I got first and second overall, I did end up with quite a little money. And at the time, Harlette Hollister was the superintendent of the food department, and she was for years and years and years, forever it seemed like. And she had said to me, now, Dianna, when you get that money, I want you to take that home and you buy something personal or something for the kitchen or just something. Well, then the next year when I come to the fair, I was judging at that time, and she says, so Dianna, what did you use with the money from Tones? And I said, well, I bought half interest in a tractor. And she got off her chair.
Yes.
And laughed. So
I'm curious, Dianna, was the same recipe used, roll recipe used for both your sweet rolls and your caramel rolls?
Actually, no.
Oh.
I had a different recipe, which did not have mashed potatoes in. It was just your typical cinnamon roll. Typical. And I don't know. They both made it anyway.
Well, you know what? I think it goes back to the hands.
Yes. Withered as they look and crooked.
Yeah. And if we're thinking of 4-H's hands and the heart,
yes,
you put your passion into your recipes.
That's right.
Well, I think too, you just get the feel of the dough.
Yes.
The feel. How
and
not too much flour.
And the same way with pies, of course. And so that, well, then after the I don't know what year that the food department moved from the Maytag building to the Elwell food department, which used to be the tourism building. But I did still exhibit at that time. And that was when I had entered the Crisco contest, which was nationwide. And each state was supposed to have a certain pie that the state would choose. And in 1988, Iowa chose rhubarb, which was perfect for me. I go out the door and pick the rhubarb and make a pie. Well, I entered that, and it was held at each state fair. And so all the other states chose whatever their fruit was going to be. It was supposed to be a 2-crust fruit. There was like over 200 pies entered because the the prize was a all expense paid trip to Los Angeles to enter the nationals. Well, I won it for Iowa. And so I was sent to Los Angeles, and there was 50 stoves in this building. And we had to make 2 pies, one for show and one for the judges. And you could sit at the banquet and watch the judging, and you could hear them talk, which was really nice. And they kept eliminating pies, and my husband Leo and I were sitting there crossing our fingers and nervous because mine made it to the end with one other pie. And I thought, I need a new kitchen. I need some money. I came in second.
Did you get any award money?
No.
Second?
No.
Oh, nothing.
I got the same basket of goodies from Procter & Gamble, Longenberger basket, which was all great. But the one lady that won it was from Oklahoma, and it was the Honey Crunch pecan pie.
Is that a 2-crust pie?
No, it is not.
Oh.
So
and it didn't have to be rhubarb, or was that something different?
No.
Every state chose their own pie.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, then, yeah. So then I won that in '88 at the Iowa State Fair. Went to Los Angeles in '89. Well, then the next year you couldn't enter it because you had won your state. So then I entered it the next year after that, and then Iowa chose fresh peach, which was fine for August. In Iowa, I won it again, and so this time there was a regional, and it was in Cincinnati. Procter & Gamble didn't feel like they could afford to send all 50 state winners to New York. So they held a regional. I was in the top 10, and then I was sent to the Good Housekeeping Institute in New York City. And so the 10 of us each had our own cubicle, and there was reporters going around and talking to you while you're trying to, make your pie. And it was anxiety and when you're trying to measure, as I say. And so the judging, we didn't get to watch. So the 10 of us just waited to see who won. Well, there again, I was just in the top 10. But Montana won it with beef pot pie.
That's not a
dessert. So,
I guess the judges had not read the rules.
Well, unless we didn't understand it all, but all 10 of us, or all 9 of us, sat there and said, have you ever ate a beef pot pie for dessert? No. But anyway, she won it. There's beef up in Montana, So, but that was an experience that I'll never forget, because my husband Leo and then my son Luke was perfect age to go to New York City and, go to the Statue of Liberty and it was wonderful. So,
Dianna, you talk so much about going out and picking the rhubarb and going out and picking the peaches. What is the difference when you bake a pie while using something that's just fruit that's just freshly picked versus using a fruit that might be frozen or canned?
Well, it's always the best, but I have found that fruit that I freeze, like let's just say cherries off of a tree. I used to get called a lot to pick cherries because people didn't want the cherries, which I could not even understand, because I was always looking for some kind of fruit somewhere. And then I would flash freeze them, individually on a cookie sheet and then put them into a bag so that they were frozen individually. And then instead of all in a, glob with the juice surrounding it. And I would find that worked just fine. The only thing I can't freeze very well is peaches. They lose something in the freezing. So
All right. Do you prepare them in any way before freezing them? Like you blanch them?
no,
Okay.
no, I don't.
Well, do you have a favorite pie that you enjoy eating?
I've never met a pie that I don't enjoy eating
All right.
or making.
Yeah, I like to try them all.
I was going to show you this picture here. This was from LA, and
Okay.
that was the unit that
Hold
we
it
got.
up a little bit, please. Hold it up a little more. There we go. Okay. Now, what was this?
Okay.
And where are you?
Well, I'm with the banner across my chest.
In the front.
They put each state got a banner from mine said Iowa, of course, and you wore that most of the time. And then we got to ride in that bus.
Yeah.
When they took us all over. And
how fun.
It was. And I'm thinking, wish I looked like that now.
And you wore shorts, huh?
Yeah, I did. I don't now.
No.
So they treated you all as if you were beauty pageant contestants.
Yes.
They did. And most of us all agreed that we were glad that there wasn't a bathing suit contest.
Right. So does Crisco have a contest, or do other tone, do these companies still have contests?
No. I'm not sure about tones, whether they've come up with something a little different, though, still for their spices. Crisco contest ended in 1994. So it only took place in those state fairs for about 5 or 6 years. And so at the banquet in 1994, out in New York, they announced that this would be the very last one. And so I was happy to at least be there the second time, and the last one. So
do you keep in touch with any of those folks?
No, I haven't. It's like, well, let's keep in touch, and then it doesn't happen. Everybody gets so busy and whatnot. But Crisco does have a contest in Florida every year, but you have to go down, fly down, drive down, take all of your equipment, and it's too much.
Yeah.
Well, they might choose a pickle pie to be the winner. Single crust with a meringue.
They've got many, many, many classes down there to enter.
Okay.
But
well, Dianna, what are some, if you think back from 1972, your first event that you entered to 2007, can you think of some major changes in baking contests? And you can stick with Iowa State.
Well, a lot more divisions and classes came about.
Okay.
Regardless of whether it was cookies, breads, rolls, just a lot more entries or divisions and classes. And the Iowa State Fair has always had the most entries. And of course, the COVID year, there was no fair, and that was a disappointment to all. But I think that somebody said, well, do you think that, like, for instance, pies, do you think that the pie baking has become better or stayed the same or not as good? And when I was exhibiting, and everyone that I knew and was friends with were fantastic bakers, and I thought they were the best. So then when I started judging, I felt like there was still a lot of good pies, but maybe it went downhill a little bit. But now there's a lot of younger ones starting to bake pies, where before they were like, kind of afraid to. Which leads me back to Arlette Hollister, wonderful, wonderful lady. When I started, well, it was 2007 was my last exhibiting year. And when the fair was over, she came to me and she said, Dianna, I don't want you to enter anymore. And I just stood there, didn't even know what to say. And then I finally said, well, have I done something wrong? She said, oh, no, I want you to judge. Phew.
I'm sure that, let me get you back here. I'm sure that phew was positive for other competitors.
Yes.
Well, funny you should ask.
Okay.
And I didn't know it. When you're out here in the rural on a farm and you're not in the city and you don't get the Des Moines Register or a lot of the articles that get put out. There was an article, and then it was shown to me. It was a reporter for the Iowa State Fair, and so he showed me this article after I started judging, and the article was several of the gals that I knew were interviewed in regard to State Fair entries, baking, etc. And part of it, they went into saying, well, we're glad that Dianna no longer enters.
Mm-hmm.
And, that really hurt. But then it went on to make it sound better.
Yeah.
You set the bar high.
Yes.
They were still trying to reach it.
Yeah. So that was kind of funny.
And I'm wondering, too, when you talked about the pie bakers of today, you and Jackie and I grew up in a generation where we had the advantage of having those our moms and grandmas, and right there that we could watch. They baked daily, and so it was a gift that they had and passed on to us. And the cultures have changed, and so there's not as much emphasis on that, teaching the younger generations to bake.
Yeah.
Well, so in regard to that, the past superintendent asked me, and that's been now probably 15 years ago. She asked me if I would do a teaching seminar, a working demonstration on how to make pies. Oh, well, yeah, I guess I can. Well, I had done that with 4-H clubs and with a couple of granddaughters. So the last Sunday of the Iowa State Fair, I get a room all to myself, and there's an overhead mirror now that Mr. Elwell put in so that when I'm showing how to make a pie and I'm rolling it out, the people in the back can see by looking at that mirror. And I met him and I told him, I said, what a wonderful thing you've done, which the Elwells have done massive amounts, for the food center. So I do a seminar, and my sister Kathy dreads it, I think, every year, because she helps me load everything up. I have to take all the ingredients, and then so I have tote after tote after tote in the back of my truck. And I go through this working demonstration, and people ask questions, and there are several men there every year that are very interested. And then I ask trivia questions about the fair, and I give prizes away. And then at the end of whoever stays to the end, we serve pie. So it's a fun afternoon.
Sure.
So it's 1:30 the last Sunday of the fair every year.
Okay.
Well, speaking of men, I was going to ask you: have you ever judged a men's pies? And
Yes.
of course, I did not know, but there have been some who have entered.
Yes, I have. There's maybe half a dozen. When we judge, of course, we don't know who, and until we announce the winners. So that's how I do know. And men are really stepping up in the kitchen compared to in our day.
Sure.
Mhm.
Kitchen, as well as outside.
Mhm.
But I did a seminar in March of 2023. I was asked to come out to the actual state fair grounds, and it was in March, and somebody from the state fair put online to, if you want to learn how to make a pie, send X amount of dollars in, bring your equipment, and come to the kitchen, it's called now.
Okay.
And so I taught like 30 people, and so there again, my sister Kathy helped with that. Yeah, she's getting, yeah.
She's the schlepper, huh?
She's getting abused. Plus helping set up all of this with youth. But there were several, there she is.
Thank you for your assistance.
And so there was like several husbands there with their wives, and they were all so interested. And so it's really coming back.
Yes. It is, yeah. In our family, my husband makes the apple pies.
Really? Oh.
Really. Because if he wants an apple pie, he's going to have to make it. I'm not.
So, what kind of apples does he use?
What?
What kind of apples does he use?
Oh, we live in northeastern Washington, and he uses a variety. You know, I don't know. I can't say. But it all started when our older daughter was in high school, and so I thought it would be a good way to start a tradition if those two made the dessert for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, and that's how it got started.
Nice tradition.
Yes.
Oh, Dianna, we are at the end of our podcast. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Oh, it went so fast. I wanted to show you real quick.
You bet.
I found 2 pictures, or my sister did actually.
Okay.
I'll hold one up.
Okay,
that
a little
is
higher.
at the Iowa State Fair.
A little higher.
There we go. Oh, what's
Look
that
at the
building?
car and the building.
What is that building, Dianna?
This one here.
Oh,
you recognize that, don't you?
That's the grandstand.
Yep.
What was the first building?
Well, it says Budweiser on it. So it must have been instead of the, as they call it, the Budweiser tent.
Yes.
It must have been just a smaller building, but
maybe it's a beer garden.
And so I don't know what year that car is, but it shows how old that is.
Yeah. What a neat design on that building.
And then I wanted to mention too, I'll show this book.
Okay.
Kay Smith and Carol Garvey wrote this book, and it is a wonderful book. You can still get it. And it is dedicated to everyone who has been a part of the Iowa State Fair food competition since 1984. So, and there's a lot of history in it. And
is Janine's name in there? Is Janine's name?
I'm in there.
And what about Janine?
And my son Luke is in there, and it is on page there.
Oh yes, yes.
Nice.
Dianna, how can we go about getting that? Is that through the Blue Ribbon Foundation?
Yes, it is, and I do have some extras if anybody wants to buy any. And so, I do have some on hand, which would be easier.
Are you taking those to State Fair with you this year?
I am.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try to see you there and see if I can purchase one from you.
Well, you think you'll be there the last Sunday?
We'll be there the last Saturday because our grandson's giving his first presentation then.
Oh, okay.
I doubt that we'll be back on Sunday.
Okay.
You're there on Saturday, aren't you?
No, the last Saturday I am home baking pies and then coming back on Sunday for my seminar.
Sure,
so that's the bad part.
Okay.
And not to change the subject, but Kathy just showed me this picture. This was 2004 when I won the.
And hold it up a little higher.
When I won this cinnamon roll contest.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
So she's kind of been there with me all along.
Yes.
And
Yes.
oh, and I did want to mention too, I don't know if you've heard of this documentary film.
Oh.
It's called Piowa.
Mhm.
Oh,
Beth Howard went all across Iowa. It took her 3 years, and it had everything to do with pies and pie baking everywhere. And it's a wonderful documentary, different towns, places, people, the state fair, and I was in it. And so they're showing it. They're actually showing it at the kitchen on, let's see, it will be shown at the kitchen at 7 p.m. on Sunday, August 10th, and also Saturday,
Mhm.
August 16th.
And at 7 p.m. on the 16th too.
Yes. And
Okay.
so that'd be a good way to see it. But
Mhm.
the Varsity Cinema showed it, and she invited me out, and then I had to bring pies to serve afterwards along with other gals. I guess that was the price of the ticket, I guess. Anyway, this documentary film is going all over Iowa to theaters, and so, but it would be easy to see it right at the state fair.
Do you think she'll take it to the national stage then?
I don't know. She texts and talks to me every once in a while, and I'll have to ask. It's a wonderful film. I didn't think I'd enjoy it that much, but it went fast, and it's worth seeing.
Good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been visiting with a phenomenal baker. Her name is Dianna Sheehy from Audubon, Iowa. You have learned baking, just a little bit about baking at its finest from one of the finest bakers there are. And remember, she says it's all about the hands. So yes. So no matter what shape or size or color your hands are, you can be a pie baker, a great pie baker. Thank you, Dianna. This has been so fun.
Well, thank you both.
You're
You
welcome.
guys are the best. You are the best. And Miss Nini.
Yeah.
Your baking is phenomenal. You need to do one of these.
So, ladies and gentlemen in our audience, we thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to tell your friends or even your relatives about this 1950s fun chat. So, till next time, toodaloo.
Bye-bye.